Well, you really dressed up for the occasion again, Bryan. No, I'm dino ranching today. I'm out in the wild, in the wilderness, watching out for Vincent D'Onofrio, or take your pick, Samuel L. Jackson and Newman, right? Here's the deal. If you watch my reviews concurrently with the timeline as they come out, you'll notice I just did another dinosaur review recently. Now, this is not a compare and contrast review. It just happened to be good timing, as there are quite a few now dinosaur park themed games. Not a ton. I mean, obviously there's not as many as Cthulhu or Zombies or Trains, but there are seeming to be more coming out at the moment. So which brings us today, Tiny Epic Dinosaurs. Now, this one is a misnomer for me in the Tiny Epic line. Not because it's not tiny, but it's because it's not epic, and don't take that as a knock. What I mean by that, this should be more tiny strategic dinosaurs as opposed to tiny epic dinosaurs. They're not out there with archers and bows shooting each other in their scaly faces. No. You're strategically building a dinosaur park. So if it's me, it's a tiny strategic game, strategy tactics game, more so than it is a tiny epic game. That doesn't matter. The point is, you are building a dinosaur park and you're breeding and you're getting new resources. It is a worker placement game with a few little tweaks, but it is a tiny epic game, so it's in the small box, but it does spread out nicely. The little meeples are almost comically small, but they do all look really great. This is the review of the base game and the deluxe expansion that comes with it, so let's take a look right now how it plays. We'll come back up and talk final thoughts right now. Anyway. All right, so we have the game set up in the 2-player version right now. You set the 4 mats out on the 1 to 2 or 1 to 3 player side, depending on the board. Notice it's a nice little panorama. Set up the research card pile here with 3 set up, or it's 3. And then the contract cards are 1 per player plus 1 set up there. Everybody's also going to get 2 private contracts. They'll choose one of these to keep. And then you'll have your personal ranch over here with your resource holdings, as well as some reference information. Playing with the deluxe edition here, so your microscope will go on the center section right here of the deluxe board. And anytime one of these tokens is taken by going to an action space, being the first one to take an action under that column or on that card, you'll take this and move along that path. So a blue one will move you along a blue path. This is a must, not a may, so you can actually move forwards and then right backwards sometimes if you're not careful, or if you want to take the action that has 2 of the same color tokens. You have a ranch over here. Resources are collected by everything showing in your ranch during the resource collection phase, which there are 7 phases. You'll notice that's first. It's 6 rounds, and then you gain an extra worker on the 4th round. First is the resource collection, so whatever's showing, you'll keep. You can keep at most 1 dinosaur on a space, so when you put dinosaurs on here, you start to take away the amount of resources you generate, which is pretty thematic if you think about it. There are barriers, plus the one that's already built into your board, that you can build to put enclosures around dinosaurs. So for instance, this is now enclosed because the mountains do count. Water does count, but these dotted lines do not count for the mainland. So this is actually open and would need to be walled in, whereas this right here is now counted as being enclosed because it's up against the mountains. On your turn, you're going to take one of your 4 workers. Now, 3 of them are regular workers. One of them is the Alan Grant larger worker there. You're going to put them out on these different action spaces. Let's go through those. First, on card A is getting dinosaurs. You can gain them in the wild free range by placing your action on that space. That would be these up here in the top. You place an action, place a worker there. You will gain that dinosaur no matter what, but you'll have to roll this dice. The egg gives you an extra dinosaur of that type. The net does nothing negative. This sends you to the medical bay along with that dinosaur. It's kind of tricky because if something's in the medical bay, they can't be used to trade in for contracts, which is kind of the main point mechanism of the game. So it's a punishment to keep that dinosaur there, and they can't be brought out of med bay unless you have a special resource card that allows for it. Now, one other thing I want to note before we go through this, the interesting mechanic about the worker placement, the little wrinkle, the little twist, is that the 2 sizes of workers stand for something. No, it's not a grande worker like a Stonemaier game. What it is this counts as 2 workers when placing. And the reason that it matters is when you place a worker out there, if someone wants to take that same action, they would have to place 1 more worker than you have placed there, which means you'd have to put 2 there. You can't do this to yourself though. So you couldn't put 2 workers to take that same action twice. Now, this larger worker counts as 2 workers, both for placement and for sitting there. So if he's here, someone would have to play 3 workers to go there. But the second part of the free range, or part of the dino market action, is you pay a cube to gain a dinosaur of your choice. The payments are always circled in like gray-brown and show an arrow pointing to it. So over here, the only way to cash in a contract is to go to one of those 2 actions. One of them is free, one of them has a cost. And if you ever want to do a private contract, you have to do it at the same time you're turning in a public contract, which are those up there. So you would need 3 raptors, a raptor and 2 stegosauruses, 2 allosauruses, and a stegosaurus. Plus this. Now it's worth a lot of points if you're able to turn it all in. These middle 3 are mostly about barriers. The first one is pay a cube to move a dinosaur from your holding area, which is right here, over into the ranch. Now you'll do that at the end of the turn, but if you need it in the ranch to turn in for a contract mid-round, that's the only way to do that other than research cards. You also get to move around some of your fences, which normally cannot be moved around unless you do something with that action symbol there. Here, it's take first player and rearrange a fence, gain 2 fences. This is the research cards. You can either choose one of the 3 showing or draw 3 and choose one of the 3 you draw. The rest go out here for the other players to pick from. They all do different things. This is where you get your specialty dinosaurs, which you'll notice the little dino meeples over here. Get out of here. Remember what we said? Dinosaur meeples over here. The unique ones are all there. Everybody sees that Mosasaurus hiding in there. But you have your 4 generic type right there. The normal dinosaurs are listed here on the board for the points that they give and what they require to eat. So 1 green, 1 meat, 2 greens, 2 meats, and then 2, 3, 3, 4 for points. These dinosaurs have special cards that tell you what they do, what their power is, and how many points they're worth. They don't have to go into enclosures. In fact, they cannot be enclosed with other dinosaurs. But as long as they're not enclosed, it's fine. Now, the other options down here, those are the research cards. You can either pay those 2 showing or pay any dinosaur. And last but not least is just go over here to gain your resources if you want more during the round. Now over here, you have to assign your ranchers, then retrieve the ranchers, then you're going to arrange the ranch. So that means you're taking your dinosaurs and putting them from here out into the ranch. If they can't fit, they escape. There's an escape negative penalty. One is for the herbivores and one's for the carnivores. You only do once per round no matter what though. So even if you have 2 escaping, you don't do it twice. An herbivore will stay and not breed, but they will tear down one of your walls. A carnivore will leave and eat one of your other dinosaurs as it goes on its merry way. That's what escaping dinosaurs do. You play till the end of the game, 6 rounds. Person with the most points wins the game. However, there's a breeding phase. Not like Agricola, it's for each 2 of the same, you gain the same dinosaur if they're in an enclosure, which means if they can't fit after breeding, those will also escape. That is how you play Tiny Epic Dinosaurs. So that's Tiny Epic Dinosaurs. Now, first and foremost is the worker placements, which I love. I love a worker placement game in the first place. I love how this one looks. I mean, you know the Tiny Epic look. They've had the smaller pieces. The boards are made out of cards. That's a stick, but it's a good stick. It works, right? Because you have the tiny box, yet you're pulling out a full-fledged game. Now, granted, if you were to say, wow, is this basically like Dinogenics distilled? Not really. I mean, there are a lot of the same elements between Dinogenics and the other one, Dinosaur Island, in the sense that you are running a dinosaur park. The walls matter, that the dinosaurs can get out and escape, but you're not working with guests. You're really just breeding the dinosaurs here, and then you're selling them to other parks, which hasn't been done yet. We've never seen the back-end business of the dinosaur parks. We've only seen the front-end business with tourists. So this one doesn't have anything to do with tourists. It has to do with dinosaurs and raising them and hoping they don't escape and eat each other as opposed to people. Now, the worker selections or the action selections are very simple. It's good, it's easy to understand. The iconography makes sense. There are a couple issues with iconography where certain things are just not in the icon. Like you kind of have to know the rule, and that's fine. I get it. But if you're using something that's heavily iconified, using heavy icons instead of words, then it's not always great when something is not made. For instance, the herbivore penalty for escaping is that it destroys a wall, but they also can't breed. Well, that's not listed on your research card. So that's an easy one to forget because you have to flip to the back to see what the actual punishment is. Whereas in the carnivore escaping one, the carnivore escapes and then eats the one of the other dinosaurs, but they both leave your park. So the punishments are pretty different, but looking at the icons, you can't really tell exactly that. So I have to ding it a little bit for that, but other than that, all the other iconography is pretty straightforward. As far as the research cards go and things like that. The game looks good with the panorama on the table. I like the way the actual panorama looks of actions. It's easy to understand. I really like the twist of putting extra workers out if you want to take an action someone's taken. You're not shutting someone down, but you are making it more difficult. I like that tweak in worker placements where it's not like full-blown, it's more like, And that to me is nice because you get some player interaction and some like, push and pull and tug of war, but you're not doing the whole, well, crud, I can't do anything this round because they've completely blocked off the only 2 actions I needed. Yes, it's going to cost you more workers, but it's not the end of the world. It is tricky. This is a really difficult puzzle to figure out because you have to make sure that you have the dinosaurs in your park so that you can get the contracts, but you got to make sure you don't have too many dinosaurs in your park to where everything starts escaping because you can't keep them away from each other and they just breed all over the place like rabbit dinosaurs. Not rabid dinosaurs, because I imagine that would be much more terrifying, right? A rabid Tyrannosaurus, not just a T-Rex. But anyway, that's a really irrelevant sidebar. Point being is the game looks good on the table. It's a Tiny Epic game. It has that look, but it is very flat. That is the only difference between this one and, say, Tiny Epic Tactics. If you were used to that kind of 3D built in, well, this one's very flat. It doesn't come with that. It does look good. It's a fun worker placement selection. It does allow you to do the things you need to do, but sometimes you feel a little bit like, well, this is dinosaur collecting, next round's going to be dinosaur cashing in. This one's dinosaur collecting, this one's going to be dinosaur cashing in. So it's almost too, it's almost a little bit too formulaic in a sense that every other turn is basically the same type of turn. I wish there was a little bit more variety of things to do. Now granted, you can get points through the research cards, etc., but really and truly the main way to get points is through the contract cards. If you can be the person who has the most contracts cashed in, or at least good enough contracts, the most point valued contracts, then you're going to win this game. You're not going to make it up on the back end. Now the other way you can win is by seeing across the board that someone has cashed in a bunch of contracts and they've got you on that, but they have no dinosaurs left in their park, which means that if you can get Allosauruses out there at 4 points apiece, well, then you might be better off not turning in those Allosauruses for 12 points on a contract and keeping, 16, 20 points worth of Allosauruses in your park if you can feed them that much meat. So there is a nice little bit of push and pull there and thinking that does break up the formulaicness just a little bit, but I wish there was just a little bit more variety in it. But overall, this is a fun, fast worker placement game, period. Now, don't hear me say this is a fun, fast, small worker placement game. It's a fun, fast worker placement game. It fits into a nice genre with a good pedigree, a good theme, and all that sorts of stuff. So I'm a fan of Tiny Epic Dinosaurs. I like the way it's quick. I like the way it's simple to understand. Again, the only thing I'm going to ding it for is I wish there was a little bit more variety as opposed to the formulaicness of your rounds, but that is Tiny Epic Dinosaurs. Oh, and I like the deluxe expansion. I like that chaotic microscopic feel, the microscope feel. I think I'm never not going to play with that. It just doesn't make sense to not play with that. So that's it for this review on Brian Drake here on the Dice Tower. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, etc. Dice Tower Brian. Till next time, we'll see you.